All right, everyone, I just want to do an order of operations with fractions now. Remember, the order of operations, we do parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, left to right, and addition and subtraction, left to right. Well, in this case, there's this multiplication to do, there's an addition, and then there's a division. So we know we have to do multiplication and division before we think about that addition. So how do you multiply two fractions? Well, to multiply two fractions, remember you multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. So I'm going to take 9 times 1, which is 9, and 2 times 2, which is 4. Remember now this is going to be a negative 9/4 because it's a negative times a positive is always a negative. Bring down my plus sign, and then I'm going to divide these two fractions. Remember the rules for dividing fractions are leave the first fraction alone, and then change the operation to multiplication and flip the second one. So this becomes 4/9 times 6/5. So let's do that multiplication now. Well, to multiply two fractions, we just said for this one here, is we multiply the numerator times the numerator, 4 times 6, and the denominator times the denominator, 9 times 5. Now we could just go ahead and do that and have 24 over 45, and that wouldn't be the end of the world because those aren't very big, those numbers. But a good idea when you're multiplying fractions is to simplify before you actually do the multiplication. What I mean by that is if you look at the numerator, I've got 6, in the denominator I've got 9, and 3 will divide into both of these things. So if I divide 3 into 6, I've got 2 left over. If I divide 3 into 9, I've got 3 left over. So now when I multiply this out, well, we'll see what we're going to get. Let's bring this guy on down. Negative 9/4 plus. Okay, here we've got 4 times 2, which is 8 in the numerator, and 3 times 5, which is 15 in the denominator. Now I've got to do this addition. To add two fractions, I have to get a common denominator. I want to get the least common denominator. Well, it turns out in this case, the least common denominator is just the product of these two. So 4 times 15 is going to give me an LCD of 60. So I've got to rewrite both of these fractions so that the denominator is 60. Now, how do we do that? Well, a little bit of room here. I'm going to have to take this negative 9/4 and I'm going to have to multiply that negative 9/4 times something. Well, what do I have to multiply it by? Well, I've got to multiply that negative 9/4 times 15 over 15 because that's how I'm going to get the denominator that I need. Because I know that in the denominator I'm going to have 15 times 4, which is 60 in my LCD. And in the numerator we're going to have 9 times 5 is 45, and 9 times 1 is 9. 135. When I multiply 9 times 15, I get 135. It's going to be a negative because a negative times a positive is a negative. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing with this guy. I'm going to multiply 8 over 15. This time I'm going to multiply it by 4 over 4 because I know 15 times 4 is going to give me that 60 that I need in the denominator. In the numerator I'm going to have a positive 32. Alright, we're almost done. Negative 135 over 60 plus 32 over 60. Keep the common denominator and add the numerators. A negative 135 plus 32 is a negative 103. Now we should try to simplify that. Negative 103 over 60. It won't simplify. It's in lowest terms. The instructions will say to write a simplified fraction, and that's a simplified fraction. You don't want to convert that to a mixed number in my math lab because it'll count that wrong. It won't ask for a mixed number. It'll just ask for a simplified fraction. So that's the end of the story.